Peace, power, and love, prosperity. What's happening? It's your one and only Kansu Sheshmar Moon. Team O.S.I.R.I.S is on the horizon. Peace, power, a little different love, topic. Prosperity. Love and relationships, y'all. Love is in the air. The holiday season is upon us. Those of us that celebrate that bullshit. But love and relationships from Black perspective is the topic. And it definitely is a unique perspective because it's definitely not a general one. I open the floor to my Team O.S.I.R.I.S members, Young Triz, Brother Heru, and Brother Mel. What's happening, y'all? Let's talk about it.
Hey, peace. What up, Kansu? Brother Triz.
Hey, peace to the team.
Brother Melvin, what's up? What's up?
Yep. Peace to the team, man. Nice to be back.
Yes, sir. All the listeners. It's good to be back in action. We got a nice topic, man. Today we was talking about this, a couple of days, and love and relationships, man, and dating, and and all of that, right? The war of the sexes, they call it, or the dance of the sexes, depending on what perspective you have on that.
Yeah. We're just giving our perspective. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna say, we're just here today to give our perspective on, our experiences and, our relating those experiences with others, and we figured it'd be a good conversation to have, amongst our peers. Now, just so that way everybody can, put in an input. Maybe you can add to the topic, but it's definitely gonna be a good one tonight.
So you say Black perspective. What gives this a different perspective? I thought relationships were relationships.
If it's anything that we learn, man, being in the field here is that perspective is everything. Everybody has a different perspective. It's cultural perspective, and perspective
Yep.
from the sexes, right? Perspective from quote unquote races of people, whatever ethnicities, however you want to call it. So no matter, depending on who you're talking to, you only can get their perspective on how something goes, and how they feel about it. That's really one thing. I don't really want to generalize. A lot of things will be shared between different cultures or whatever, but it's certain things that we got to deal with as Black people, as Black men, in particular, before we even get to the topic of love and dating and all of that.
Yep. Also, culture plays a huge role in if this you for yourself and other people and requirements. So we can't just completely ignore the culture factor because what some require in one relationship definitely may differ across this, let alone the entire globe.
Indeed, man.
So what were you guys discussing? Let's get to the meat of it. What prompted the motivation to put this out here? I wasn't part of the discussion, so I'm kind of with the listeners. I want to kind of engage wherever I can fit in. So
Right. The original topic we were having was that a lot of times most Black men don't really get a chance to give their input when it comes to their experiences in relationships. A lot of times, we just kind of keep things quiet and just keep going on as usual. We make decisions on the fly, and by the time someone actually finds out what's actually going on, it's kind of like too late. This would be like a rare as to like what we went through and things like that. That's really like spurred the topic to actually do a show about this.
Okay, so you're basically dealing with the stigma as well then around black relationships. And
Yes.
you said love and relationships, so I'm assuming standard heterosexual relationships and friendships, business, whether they be platonic or not.
Mm-hmm.
Correct. And all
Yep.
different
Yep.
forms. I guess the whole range of female male relations. Whether it's friends with benefits, whether it's just a sex partner, or a good friend, like you said, platonic, or if you're dating,
Yep.
courtship. All of these
Mm-hmm.
things are important, as well as
Yep.
taste.
Coworkers. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yep.
coworkers, all of that. How to behave according to whatever your particular belief set is when it comes, socially to dating and stuff. And I think we was talking about one of the things we was talking about is like what taste do you have in women, and sometimes we think it's taboo to feel a certain type of way about a certain type of woman, like we ain't supposed to feel that way or whatever. Everybody got their own kind of flavors they like. And it's just interesting when you get different personalities together and you see these couples interacting, or you see if you're a vent buddy for any of your friends, you get to kind of get an inside scoop on your friend's personality and how it clashes or gets along with his significant others or her significant others personality. So one of the things that I was talking about was the infatuation with quote unquote crazy women, or wild women, loose women, however you want to put it, right? Hoes, if you will, or whatever. And some dudes prefer and go that route, when they're looking for a mate, and some don't. Some shy away from that and they try to go for the prestigious, the debutante, the you know impeccable resume, and so on. So I think all of that stuff is really interesting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep. Yep.
So I'm gonna say off top, I'm one of those that's in the lane of I like the challenge of the wild, I guess, kind of woman or whatever you want to call it, and I appreciate the dance that's involved there. I guess to put it succinctly, I can appreciate it where some people can't. You know,
Yeah, I think all of them are that way. Some kind of keep it low key, but I think all of them are that way. Uh, so I think it's just knowing, who that person is and how to adjust to their level. I think that's really the important thing. Um, but I think regardless of who you're with, I think the key thing that a lot of women don't really get is regardless of who you decide to be with. A lot of women, especially with the current generation, they feel like the guy is supposed to be like there to complete them, and that's something that's never gonna happen. Never.
that's
So
a good point. That's a good point.
yeah, I think if you're not together, at least mentally, before you start that relationship, the same way you entered it to be the same way you reside in it, and if you end up ending the relationship, you'll still be the same person. So I think a lot of people have this misnomer that there's going to be some sort of completeness with that.
That's true. That's a very good topic, man. Sometimes I hear it referred to as like what they call it, fairy tale syndrome or something to that effect, where it's like we basically have been socialized And so it's not anybody's fault, right? In all of this whole conversation, we're not doing any kind of blame shifting or any kind of
Oh
those
no,
tactics. This
nah.
is just allowing, I guess, us that are talking right now to kind of be free, and then the listeners to kind of be free to express how they feel, about this dating stuff. But oh, I lost my train of thought. What was I saying, Brother Melvin?
When I was talking about, while dating, uh, a lot of women think they need to be completed. I think,
Oh, the fairy tale syndrome.
yeah,
Yes. We
yeah,
we get
yeah,
socialized. We get socialized to feel like that's the natural thing. Like it's gonna be easy to sort of find somebody and then pick them, and then they're gonna sort of fall in line and do all the things that you were told that a man is gonna do in the case of this woman. And she's really thinking that, she's banking on that, that I really won't be with a guy unless he's doing all of this checklist of things, that I've learned from my household, my culture, so on and so forth. And so you got to consider that when you go out to find someone, even in your own culture, let alone another culture, which introduces a even more difficult, or an obstacle, I guess, that you would want to get over in this whole love thing. But we definitely get socialized to things that are kind of hard to live up to, and it's kind of unfair a little bit, on both sides, on both sides. So I think that's very important to just get that out the way, out the gate, because that's a very important aspect of our socializing out here.
yeah. I agree. I agree. I think a lot of people, they have a lot of assumptions when it comes to, you know getting with somebody, and figuring out what it is that they're going to do to try to make it work. And a lot of times they try to change other people, or even they change themselves, and maybe that what you change into is not necessarily what attracted that person to you. So a lot of
Mm,
times, uh, they do a lot of what I call last minute fixing, where they're trying to fix problems that were already kind of major problems. We all do it. It's just
mm-hmm.
when you're in like a relationship, that's kind of like something you're supposed to do together, not necessarily like just isolate yourself and say, "Hey, okay, this person literally has themselves together, so I need to do this, and this, and then maybe we can work out."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think more so from the male's perspective, a lot of times, like I said earlier, we don't really discuss too much when it comes into relationships. For the most part, a lot of us just want some consistency. If it's consistent and it's good consistency, then we're fine with it. Uh, when there's, I mean, for me, like, peace is priceless. Like, to have somebody, and have peace with that person is priceless. You're not going to give that up easily, versus having somebody who's very, very inconsistent.
True, true indeed. Yeah, that's a
So
big
if you
thing
got you a
because
hoe, as long as she a consistent, peaceful hoe, it's all good.
right, as long
Right,
as it's
right.
a
But
predictable
if
pattern.
she consistently know her place, then that works well.
Yeah, humans like predictability, right? So
Right, right,
if you can
Well,
work
that's
with it, it's predictable. You're not mad at it.
right. I mean, if we just having sex just to be having sex, like if we
my
just sex buddies, then let's continue to be that, unless we both feel like, hey, maybe we need to kind of change things. But
Right, right.
you know,
Yeah, there's a lot of leading on that happens, and immediately when you hear that, you think like, oh yeah, the first person misled the second person, and that's not always the case. Sometimes we lead on ourselves, right, via lack of communication, right? So imagine these two people that they're doing this dance and then they're not really communicating, but then one starts feeling that they want to change the type of relationship this is or whatever, and they're afraid to bring it up, or they do it in a roundabout way and it doesn't really get confronted head on, and then time elapses and now you got hurt feelings or you got some
right,
kind of outburst or something like that, or something like that. So that's
Right.
very
Well, we
important.
we
We'll
do
eat
that.
ourselves on.
Right. And as men, we do that a lot, especially in relationships. And I think now more so than ever, you should be kind of truthful with your partner, at least to the point of even if you have an idea or a suggestion, that would be something that you would talk about just to kind of clear the air because then you have thoughts and secrets and things like that, and that's when things can
Hmm.
kind of get messy. When if you were straight up from the beginning, things would have been good. And then a lot of times we worry about hurting people's feelings, and
Yes, yes. There you go.
sometimes you gotta just say fuck it, you know.
Guys, hello.
Hey, what's going on?
Listen, I
Oh,
can't
who's that?
talk anymore because my woman's here. S-
You can't
Okay,
talk because
yes.
your woman here.
So my message to y'all is women are fucking crazy.
Oh
That's my
man,
message to y'all.
that's unfortunate to hear, bro.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unfortunate that you grown as hell. You can't talk around your woman. I don't know what's wrong with that.
You see what I'm saying? She's Cuban, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right. Yeah, all right. Guess that's
Hey, well, that's just an example of kind of where things can go sometimes,
Right,
and
right.
right when you were talking about being open and transparent, right? So
right.
you
Correct.
got to be open and transparent, man.
Right. Even if it hurts their feelings, I think you get more respect that way. I
Yeah,
mean, at
most of the
least in my,
time you're not even gonna hurt their feelings. You just overthinking. Like
facts,
you're not even gonna
facts,
hurt nobody's feelings for real.
facts. I think at least in my experience, if you're more truthful from the jump, while things may not necessarily work out for you guys, at least there's a respect factor, and I think a lot of people miss that. So I think
Mhm.
even if she is somewhat crazy, being honest, at least if she doesn't respect that, then that's a character issue. But still, she should still respect that you told her the truth and cleared the air. So I think that's something that needs to be spoken about as well.
Of course, of course. There's a difference between being reckless and just being, a wild personality,
Right,
a firecracker or whatever, right? There's a difference. There's a line there between just being utterly reckless and just being a firecracker. So, yeah, it's everyone's duty, no matter what style of person you are, to go ahead and try to be, transparent, even if you are a very, introverted type or whatever your deal is. Be honest about that. You know what I mean?
right. I agree. There's a question here
I see.
from the chat. The question here says, "So, what's y'all opinion on monogamous versus poly relationships in the community?"
Well, I mean, I'm gonna just keep it simple and say we are a microcosm of the macrocosm, which is all of humanity. You're gonna have relationships that span from monogamous all the way down to polyamorous, polygamous, whatever combination thereof, and all of that. What I
Hmm.
will say is, don't get outside yourself where you're, I guess, doing any of these things because you think you need to do it versus it's something that you honestly want to try and that you want to see if it is for you per se.
Right.
A lot of times we get caught in fads and and this goes for everything, every type of lifestyle. We get caught in these fads, and then people are ending up doing things that they really kind of didn't even set out to do, and then they have to rein themselves back in. You know what I mean?
Right.
But
Um.
I'm not ashamed of any type of relationship. I'll say that though. I support whatever style relationship you want to do, and I'll even add the caveat that some relationships out there, some of y'all might find yourself with the same person, being fluid and moving between monogamy and polygamy and so on and so forth. So I don't think there should be any judgment or judging on that personally.
Right. But do you think, like, as far as the community wise, should they favor monogamous versus the poly relationship, or vice versa, or because I'm like, if it works, it works.
Correct.
Like
Correct.
If as long as it works, if it's no stress in that particular situation, then by all means. But
That's kind of what I want to say. And then on the other hand, you kind of want to be protective, right? We're talking about the
you're right.
community, and then we might say like, well, if you are knowledgeable and you feel like you're ready for that challenge, sure, go ahead and try that. However, we know the majority of people in the community, they may not be so up to speed and so quick-witted that they should try this. So maybe they want to do something more traditional with a monogamy or something, right? Or with like a basic dating that's not even at the marriage level yet, but just the basic dating. Like we ain't even mastered that yet per se. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So you might want to find a good situation like that, a nice girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, and y'all just hit it off. And maybe when as you mature, you can check in and be like, okay, maybe we want to try being married and really doing the monogamy thing, or maybe we want to try polygamy, and you discuss it where it's all cool and it's not like a secretive thing, like you said, and you going behind people back, and it just turns into this basic cheating, toxic monogamy dynamic or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right, right. I agree. I just think that uh, at least for people that are interested in it, there's no way to really say, hey, here's how to get experience in it without actually going through it. So
Exactly.
yeah, I think if you and the other parties involved are interested, go for it, shoot your shot, see if it works.
Mm-hmm. Right,
And then
right. With
if
the
it don't, if
understanding
it
that, hey, we're just trying this. It's not,
correct, correct,
yes.
and there shouldn't be any permanent long term commitments with that. But then, like I said, if it doesn't work, then if you decide to do it again, now you have experience.
Correct. This is the only way to get it, really. It's the only way to get it.
Facts,
So,
facts.
so you and your mate have to be comfortable enough not to have a falling out just because, right? The feelings that might be involved in you changing your type of relationship, whether you're going from, sex buddies to boyfriend and girlfriend, or you're going from boyfriend and girlfriend to maybe we're gonna have two girlfriends now and a boyfriend, you know what I'm saying? Or if the chick, which a lot of these empowered women are like, I'm gonna have two boyfriends, you know what I'm saying? And you, well, I mean, whatever it is, it's all fair in love and war.
Facts, facts, facts.
Yeah, the best thing I think is to become acclimated or become comfortable enough with your mate that you're not gonna fly off the handle based off of these conversations of maybe I want to do this or try that. I think just that in itself, observing some self control and knowing that, hey, look, your mate is opening up to you, so you don't want to stuff that attempt, and then they never want to really open up anymore.
Again,
You know what I'm saying?
right, right.
So it's very fragile. So you got to be even keeled, and state how you feel about things if something is upsetting you or whatever. But to not fly off the handle and have these outbursts and stuff like which people do, even after having an agreement, we'll still have an outburst or whatever, and it's very like immature. So I think the best thing we can do is do what we think is at our speed, right? If it
Right.
works, it works. We don't have to work to try to define it and try to give it all these technical terms. Just if it's working, it's working, and don't be ashamed of it though. You still contributing to the community in whatever way you are. You know what I'm saying? With your personality, with your works, with whatever. So it's just about not being ashamed of it.
Correct, correct. I agree. Wholeheartedly, I agree. Yep. What do you think about this next comment here? Uh,
Yeah, this is deep.
uh, actually, before we go to this next comment,
Mm-hmm.
I did have something I wanted to bring up to the table. Um, a lot of times in experiences, you find yourself, and this is really on both sides, comparing someone that you had in the past with the new person. Uh, should that be something that we should, at least from this point moving forward, try to prevent from making that comparison? Because I think that uh, by kind of convicting that person of or assuming that the person is similar or drastically different to the last person that you were with kind of sets you up for failure, and it doesn't necessarily give them a chance to really show you who they are. What do you think about that?
Okay, that's a popular one. So
Yeah.
we're going into a relationship and we like, oh, I was used to it like this, and I got my lunch made like this, and and now with this new person, and you think that they just gonna fall in line with what you've been doing.
Correct.
They have no clue what kind of life y'all had, with your old girl or whatever the case may be. So
Right.
yeah, that's very important. So I guess what I'll say on that is I've seen some articles and some people say, in earnest that they do like to talk to the people that you dealt with, or at least have some sort of a idea of the people that you dealt with or whatever. If they can't speak with them, to kind of get a better understanding of you now, this person that they dating now. You know what I'm saying?
Right, but do you think that's something we can actually do in our community? Because I don't want to talk to nobody. Like, I'll be honest.
Yeah, no, I'm kind of the same way, but it depends on your skill level. See, we're so confident in our skill level of peopling, right, and socializing, that we don't need to talk to such and such, and all of that. I'm gonna get the info from you. You know what I mean? And we gonna do what it do. I don't have to go ask nobody else. You know what I mean?
Right, right, right. I just feel like eventually you're kind of telling yourself. So I think,
Exactly. Yep. You will. You will. You will. But
yeah,
back to what you were saying. Some of us, we still kind of go hard headed, and we feel
yeah,
like,
yeah.
well, I'm on my second wife now. My second wife, she should do all that shit that I wanted, and all that stuff or whatever. And
Right, right,
it's not like that. It's not as easy as that. And I think it's pretty messed up to try to ask somebody to sort of like fill in, you know what I mean, and do their program different than how they was gonna do it to begin with. I want you to do your program how you gonna do it, and then if I get along with that, if I jive with that, then cool. It doesn't
right.
have to be what my last relationship was, but we do have a lot of that out here, and I don't really understand it.
Right, I agree. I agree. I think it's just like I said, it's just sort of like kind of convicting someone from someone else's crimes and not really giving that person a chance to come into a relationship and say, "Hey, here's who I am." Instead, they have to kind of succumb to who you think they are. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, as men, the moment you do that, it's like, okay, well, if you think I'm this type of person, why not be this type of person? Because obviously, you're not giving me a chance to be me.
Hmm.
So I think that's something that happens a lot.
Yeah, you're right. It does, man. People are kind of like suffering in silence, so to speak, in them
Right,
kind of
right.
situations.
Yeah, I
You're
agree.
right, man.
Especially for the community, a lot of us are suffering in silence.
Hmm.
Mhm. What do you think about this comment from Brother Lawrence here? You see that?
Yeah, okay. I've tried the love and respect approach. Women lack respect for men, and men lack loving a woman. Women naturally love, and men demand respect, so we naturally know respect. I mean, that don't really have to be gender specific per se, right? Like
Right, right.
the male and the female would be good to strive for love and respect, right? Rather than
Correct,
trying to
correct.
put it in half and be like, you bring the love, I'll bring the respect to the party, and then no, it doesn't really work that way.
Right. That goes back to the completion topic that I mentioned early on, where you think that, hey, here's what I bring to the table, here's what you bring to the table. Let's put this together and force this to work. Like,
Yeah, yeah, force it to work. So that's already strike number one, because
right,
both the male and female have to learn to love and to respect in the way that this particular relationship goes, not how you did it in your last one, or whatever, in this particular relationship, and it should be like a living document where it kind of changes over time, because our sensibilities change, we age, right, we go through the development stage. Like our whole life is development stages, right? We don't just stay the way we were when we were 17. We don't stay the same when we were a baby. Same for 35, 45, 55, 65, 75, and so on. There's like these different little stages, that you enter, and you might feel a different way, have a different disposition depending on your age, and development. So it's up to the partners to sort of stay in sync with each other, right? That double dutch game, and give each other those clues, and just kind of stay in communication with each other over the life of the relationship.
Right, right. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
But you can't do the whole the women's supposed to love and then the man's supposed to respect, and then no, it doesn't really work that way. And we may show our loves and our respects in different ways, different men versus different women, and and,
Facts.
and that's there's nothing wrong with that. That's nature, right? um
Facts.
but no, we're not gonna kind of get away with just making it so easy to be like, I'm a man that demands respect, so I'm gonna just go ahead and get this woman that she just loves on a man all the time, and then that's just gonna work. Like, no, you're gonna grow. You're gonna have to learn how to respect her, right? And then she gonna have to learn how to really love you, as opposed to just loving a man that demands respect. You know what I'm saying?
Facts, facts, facts. You're gonna learn things about each other that immediately it's like, okay, yeah, I can't do this because I love and respect this person, versus doing it anyway because, well, you may love them, you don't respect them, or you don't care. So I agree with you there. I think that both parties have to do it, and that's how it works.
Absolutely. And that's part of the war part of this whole thing, between the sexes. There's a lot of headstrong people out there. We see them, in the digital world and stuff on social media. Any dude want to talk to me got a wham, A B C D E. You know what I'm saying? And she's not saying, in the case of a woman, that she's offering XYZ or anything. She just saying, any man want to talk to me got to do A B C D E. And then you got these men. Oh, if you women want a chance with me, then you got it A B C D E. And it's like, well, damn, what do you do? What like, this is a two-way street.
Right, right. But then the catch 22 is when you see them with somebody, they don't meet those qualifications for A, B, C, D.
Mm, mm,
Because then you're like, okay, what happened here? What happened to the requirements? Like, how did this person pass the test?
mm-hmm.
So,
Facts. Facts.
yep, yep.
That's a very common phenomenon we be seeing out there.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Yeah, I think it's just ego stroking at the end of the day. I think it's just people have an
That's exactly what
idea
it is.
of it's
That's
really
ego.
fantasy.
That's ego.
Yep,
Yeah,
yep.
yeah, yeah.
This is
I
like
think
the portrait I'm gonna paint of what I would like people to think about me. You know what I'm
facts,
saying?
facts. But then when
That's
they
what that
meet you,
is.
like it don't add up. So then they gotta make a choice.
Yep.
So you know, yep.
Yeah. So along those lines, I would just like to say it's very hard to come into a relationship with some sort of like ultimatum or contract, or these predetermined behaviors or whatever, and you telling this person, look, this is how you gonna do it, this is how I'm gonna do it. Anything outside of that is gonna be like, oh, unacceptable, as opposed to, hey, we naturally like each other, and we like the potential for change that each one of us has. So that's the unknown, right? But I'm okay with that. Let's go ahead and grow together, right?
Right, right,
That those are two different things. Then just do how I want you to do with my limited knowledge and all this stuff. You do this stuff on the checklist, then you're golden. Versus, let's grow together naturally, organically,
hmm
and stay in tune with each other in terms of communication, as opposed to having these tenets, these rules where you have to meet this, or it obviously means you don't fuck with me or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
right, right,
So a woman might say, you got to have this job making such and such K a year. You know, now he changes his mind. He wants to do some other type of work where he's just not getting paid like that, but that's where his heart is at. And now she mad. You see what I'm saying? Or
right. Or or what if he's making that and then maybe his spending behaviors are erratic, or maybe he's just not. taking care of his responsibilities, or he
Correct.
just wants to do him,
Yeah.
So, you know,
Absolutely. Or he wants her to be, you take care of the house and all that, and I'm gone, and all hours, and you're supposed to just be here doing that. And then she like, wait a minute, like that was cool, once upon a time or whatever. But like all people,
right.
right? You get tired of stuff. Like, wait, I don't want to. I didn't say I want to do this my whole life. You know what I'm saying? Like, I got other stuff
Facts.
that I want to do. You feel me?
Facts.
So people are very rigid. Where that'll be the end right there.
Yeah.
And then
Yep.
they think they're gonna get somebody else, and then that is gonna work out. No, that's gonna end too.
Yeah, they got to do the same thing with that person, and you know, eventually it's either gonna click or it doesn't. So.
Facts. Yep. Third husband in or third wife in or whatever, right?
Right.
Now
Right.
you want to go ahead and be organic and say, well, however your heart feels, and and all this stuff, and let's go in together, and I got your back and all this. Now you want to talk like that, but at first that's not how you was talking.
Right. And a lot of times they think it's the type of person who would. So they say, hey, I won't go with these type of people from this particular background or this particular race, and
Mm-hmm.
assume that somebody different from a completely different background or a completely different race won't share those same feelings because it's still you at the end of the day that is
Mm-hmm.
causing it. So I think people don't really get that.
Facts.
Yep. Um, so as far as
What up,
again taking
Josh?
it back. Oh, yeah, Josh in there? Oh, you must have left. Um, as far as taking it back to black uh, experiences within relationships,
Mm-hmm.
what are you guys' thoughts on dating consistently and never getting married?
Well, depending on the person, there's a lot of people that are high strung about it. They're very
Right.
they feel like they're on the clock, right? And they need to hit that game winning three before they get too old where nobody wants them, like they're gonna spoil or something like that. And I don't like that feeling, and I don't
Facts.
want people to have that feeling. I don't like that, because then that affects your the rest of your daily life, like how you gonna
Hmm.
deal with me when you get to work and you got to deal with me, or you get to the to the game or whatever it is, right? You're dealing with me. I'm gonna feel that. I'm gonna feel the effects of what you're going through, basically.
Right. Council, you have an input on that?
I don't know if he was there.
Right.
Yeah, me, I
Um.
think it's more so a cultural construct. Um, there's a rule that says you gotta be married, but that doesn't mean it's a requirement. I think it's based on society, the morals and ethics that we adopt
Mhm.
Correct.
to take the types of relationships we have. Because there's far more people in the world that coexist without marriage than it is marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Because some
Mhm.
areas don't require marriage, and their cultures don't even talk about it. You just exist, just do your thing. Um,
Correct.
so I think it's a cultural construct.
Yep. I agree.
Now we're moving into the territory of nature or biology versus society, cultural norms, right?
Mhm.
Ethnic traditions, which do have their place, and so people like to argue one side or the other on that. And some people say, well, we're not prehistoric anymore, and we're not uh, I guess animals. Some of the people might throw the fallacy out there, we're not animals, even though we really are. uh, that we need to be on this new wave that these new cultures are on, and be married, whether it's polygamous or polyamorous, or whether it's monogamous or whatever. And for some reason, I guess you feel like a higher status, even though it's not really true. That's just what we've been taught. So a lot of us is out there serial dating, looking for, I guess, like a good catch that looks good on paper, that we
Right.
would applaud. If you get married to this person, we gonna applaud that. And then they try to snatch it, even if the person is not really compatible with them. They just look good on paper. So then they fulfilled the obligation to the family and all that stuff about being married. They're good now. They're not the heathen cousin or the heathen, auntie or whatever that didn't get married or whatever. And I think that's wrong. Like Kansu said, there's more of the world out there that does not practice this marriage institution, and these contracts and this sort of like legal retribution and holding things over people's heads to get them to be the person you want them to be, or else we're going to upset this union, and then you got to regain your footing financially and all this stuff, and go through all these issues.
Right. Right.
So me, I try to be as biological, as possible and all that stuff, without being just totally reckless and careless,
Hmm.
because you have to remember that there's a reason why a lot of these different social norms were created. Like whenever they were created years ago, right, centuries ago, whatever it may be, it was created to preserve a life, pretty much,
Right. Right.
right? And more specifically, to preserve a particular genetic profile for that particular family, that particular type of human, that tribe, right?
Correct. Yeah. To allow them to continue to live through, the next child or children's lives, and hopefully have them continue to do the same.
Correct. Which is now where you're going to get your preferences, which then can quickly change to um, prejudices, which then can quickly change to outright bigotry, racism, so on and
Mm.
so forth. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
I want my offspring, I want my son to pick the type of person that I want them to pick, not over here, because we don't know them people's rules and the way they live and stuff like that. You see what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So now that could be, we could be in jeopardy, fooling around over here, quote unquote, when we could just have a guaranteed thing with this person that's from our culture and all that. They parents already know us. That's where you get the arrange, wedding and stuff like that. Our people already know each other, so it's going to be more of a guarantee, which that's not always true either, especially nowadays. So fast forward to now, we got way more people on Earth. We got way more genetic diversity, people being able to move from one location to another within hours or minutes.
Hmm.
So you have more opportunity to explore life with these other type of people outside of your particular demographic, which can be fruitful in terms of what experience you gain, but it can also be, double-edged sword, right? Depending on who you end up connecting with. And you can find people that you connect with in the same way that are from different ethnic backgrounds, because we have this large, group think society where all of us are exposed to the same type of media, the same type of religions, same type of, dissentful views, and so on, right? Anti-establishment views, people of different ethnicities that share these same views, Republican, Democrat. You can find every race of Republican, every race of Democrat, so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying?
Right, right.
So it makes it easier to sort of kind of get lost in the shuffle there. So what I would say is, again, it depends on your skill level. A lot of people, I would not advise to sort of just venture outside of what you're comfortable with without first having a conversation with yourself about this, so that you're not blaming the other side for you wanting to explore and see what would happen, right? It's you that's in control of that journey, you know? But to speak to our community, it's like the people that you grow up with, you're naturally going to want to gravitate towards them anyway. That's what's more likely going to happen. And then you and the person that's from your background will then explore the world together, right? And have these diverse thoughts and views and, and experiences, and say, let's try this, and that kind of thing. And try to learn about these different perspectives and whatnot. But if you're doing that with somebody that's from your background, I think there's I guess more of a connected feeling that you feel, or more of a grounded, like, we made it sort of thing, made it from, in terms of, being a young adolescent or whatever, who thought that maybe I would never even have a good relationship with somebody that's from my demographic or whatever, had bad experiences or whatever, to now, oh, look at this, we're growing together and seeing outside of the limited perspective we had growing up wherever we grew up or whatever.
Right, right.
And I think it's pretty fruitful, and it makes you feel like there's not as much trust issue there, because you guys do both come from the same sort of backgrounds and stuff.
Right. Yeah, I think a perfect example of that is having two people from the same neighborhood, or from the same area, that were in close vicinity with each other in the past, maybe, and then as they grow apart, they eventually find themselves together again, and then because they know the history between them, it's like a mutual respect.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. A lot of people getting, and we got serial daters. They get in relationships with different types of people, not even thinking about, well, this person is a completely different demographic. So I have to think about how I'm going about this.
Right, right.
It's a tricky game out there.
Yep. I think if you, at least with the current generation, I think that there's going to be less and lesser people getting married just because of the hassle of it, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people that did get married in the past don't want to have to go through that whole experience again because
Mm-hmm.
maybe it was unsatisfactory, and so they don't mind just being with somebody and writing it out without any official, like, titles or anything like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I agree, man. And even if you want to talk about just the cost associated with pleasing not just the to be wed, so to speak, but the families and so on and so forth, and all of this social pressure, it's like it's not even worth it a lot of the time, with all this money that gets spent, and so then you're starting off in debt for a
Right.
party that you had for throwing this grand party.
Right. For from a male's perspective, that's seriously unnecessary because that's really for like the family, like really.
Right, right.
That's really who it's for. Um, but like if you look at most men in that situation, uh, it's not really like a highly enjoyable, you know, experience. They're happy because family's there, and the person that they're supposed to marry is there. But like at the end of the day, I just think that it's not necessary. You can be together with somebody and have enough mutual respect with them, so it feels like you guys are actually locked down, but you're not.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
I mean, where do you think that the idea of marriage came from? It came from people who was not technically married before, but they was an example
correct,
of being a great couple that did
correct,
not give up on each other. So so on and so forth. All the things that describe this thing we call marriage now after the fact. You know what I'm saying?
right, right. It was good, Joshua, man.
Yo, what's good, yo?
Brother Josh.
Yo, can y'all hear me?
Yeah. We hear you.
Yeah, what's going on?
It's cool, man. Just speaking on the subject of just discussing our perspective of relationships from a black man's perspective. So, did you have any input you wanted to add, or are you just listening?
I was doing both. I was listening in, but I don't know what. I came in a little late.
Yeah.
The phone dropped out, and then I came back on. But I don't really know what was discussed.
Right now, we going in on the idea of marriage as a social, construct, and where do you see it going, for our community or just for humanity in general? Is it a viable construct? Is it something that you need to have like we always thought it was and stuff like that?
From my understanding, like marriage is a business. Like that shit is business oriented. It's like you and this, your significant other come together and um, like it passes on wealth, property, and stuff like that. Yeah, I don't know. Like marriage is defined differently. Like growing up, you would have like shotgun weddings. Like my grandparents, they
Hmm.
had a they had a shotgun wedding. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't about property, inheritance, shit like that. It was just you got my daughter pregnant and y'all finna get married right now. You know what I'm saying? That type of deal. But now it's different. Like, cause marriage is tough and it's and it's a little costly. Like, I never been married, but I see the statistics behind it. It's very expensive to get divorced. Uh, and you got to deal with who gets what in the event that you guys get divorced. So I don't know. Like marriage is, I just have mixed feelings about it. I don't know. I'm not in a rush to get married myself because it's not enough pros for me to get married. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Too many cons for me. Way too
Yep.
many.
Yep. Yeah, I
So,
agree. Yep. But I was just saying, with the new wave of the current society, you find a lot more people just dating long periods of time and never really taking that step to be married, just because for them it's more comfortable that way. They're still loyal to themselves. They
Hmm.
still keep it 100 with themselves, but they just don't go that route. You know.
Yeah, I agree that I think it's gonna start, going back towards that because again, we're just one nation. Not all the nations really practice that, and then again, biology. What we're starting to see when people maybe they've been married once or twice, and then they say, "Well, hold on, let me just sort of be me, have my established legacy, have my home and car and job and all that. Meet someone else that has that. I don't have to force someone to live with me, or I gotta live with them, or they gotta buy the house, or we're all individuals now. And of course, people talk about individualism, right? Pros and cons. But guess
Hmm.
what? Guess what? It's a capitalistic society. So there's a primary person that's on the deed of the house, right? And that's just how it goes. Um, so we're kind of placed in a position where we have to have and we have to get. We can't just have one car anymore. This is not the 50s. You know what I'm saying? She got to have a car. I got to have a car. You might not have a job that's in the same city like that, where it can be comfortable and that image of the white picket fence, and all that. I might work across the country, so I got to have a house over there, and you have the house here because you work over here. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
So to get caught up in the whole, I guess, tradition of it and that kind of stuff, and to have these expectations, it does make things more difficult because you end up trying to force somebody to do something they don't want to do, or vice versa. So I do think it's moving towards, look, I got my own thing. I see a lot of women and a lot of men. I got my own thing. If we like each other, guess what? You'll just be spending the night over my house more often, and vice versa.
Facts.
You see what I'm saying? And we don't
Facts.
have to be ashamed of that. I had my first set of kids with my first love or whatever, and that was great, and we raised the kids and all that. If I decide to have a kid again, it's not going to be behind this facade of love and the marriage thing. It's going to be, no, you have genes that I like. I'm going to have kids with you, whether or not we do the marriage thing, or if we just friends with benefits, or if we, whatever, we just dating, or if I'm dating multiple or whatever, which kind of harkens back to the biology. Animals, they select. They say, look, I like what you got going on physically and mentally. I don't care if you're already with or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'll take care of the kid myself or whatever. You hear that? You hear that a lot.
Oh
Just
yeah.
go just go ahead and hit me off with that because this is nature,
Mhm.
and we just have to be big enough to not be ashamed of that.
True.
To do it in a transparent way, to do it in an honorable way, like animals do. They sniff you out. You,
Right. But like society wise, it's not. I would say it's not necessarily a comfortable thing to for us to be able to make that choice. For a lot of people, they rather just do that just because there's no drama, you know. So they rather just say, hey, I'll take the drama free route, but by any means necessary.
So I got a question.
It's good.
oh, sorry about that. I got cut off, man.
Were you finished? Did you have something you want to say?
No, I think that was it. That was pretty good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to pose a question. Since we're in the area of social constructs within relationships, what do you guys think about it? Is there an ongoing rise in homosexuality and how it's accepted today in the Black community, or has it always been there? Is this
I
something?
think it's a little bit of it was always there, but then the technology and the journalism on it and all that stuff and the cameras and all that stuff is kind of heightened. There's more of that now, I guess, to capture it.
Right. I agree. I think it's more so advertised now, and even now, it's kind of becoming like a quote unquote, and I hate to say this, but quote unquote revolutionary thing to do. So I think that's what's it's a lot of social behind it, social
Oh,
factors
okay.
behind it.
So
And
it's
I
like
think
trending, in other words, a little bit. You can see a little bit of it. It's a trendy
I
thing.
trendy, but I think it's also more like a social thing. Like how at least when we were growing up, we were taught, okay, um, being black is at the time, may not have been accepted globally, or well, at least in the U.S. It might not have been publicly accepted. Yeah, you were legally a citizen, but we all know how about those other people felt about us. So
Yeah.
it was kind of revolutionary to be black and go wherever the hell you wanted to go and have the money you had and date whoever you wanted to date. It was kind of quote
Mm-hmm.
unquote revolutionary because it was going against the odds. And I think that's where this whole LGBT whatever thing movement is going because it's
Okay. Well,
trying to kind of fit that mold, and it doesn't fit because this is a choice at the end of the day. So it's not
right,
like
right. This is not something like a ethnicity that you're sort of born with or whatever.
correct.
But
So
yeah,
at
you're
the end
right.
of the
It's
day, yeah, you
like you're being
chose
a
to do
rebel
that.
now because you're being LGBTQ or whatever. You're being more of a
Facts.
now you should be, I guess, respected more as a social justice warrior because of
Facts.
this or something.
Facts. And
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
basically where to me, in my opinion, but that's basically where I feel like that's going. And that's why it's giving so much, social media coverage and media coverage just because of that particular factor alone. Without that, it would still be private. I think it should be private because I'm not gonna boast to the world. Okay, here's who I like. Here's my type, and if you don't like it, you're a hater or you're racist or you're sexist.
Right. Right.
Like forget
Right.
all that. I'm gonna do what I want to do in my house. You do what you want to do in your house, and just
Mm-hmm.
keep it. Mind your business, basically. So you don't have to tell the whole world, and I think
Yeah.
that's the problem.
I agree. I heard some shit a while back that basically gay is the new black or some dumb ass shit. Like I don't know what
Yeah,
the fuck that
yeah,
basically means.
Yeah, I seen something like that too.
yeah. Saying that,
It's not
But
necessarily comparable at all, but that's the
hell
feel. That's
no.
the
it's not.
feeling. That's what they think we feel about being black. Like the way they feel, they think like that must be how they feel.
Hell
Being
no.
being being black being black rebels. You know what I'm saying? It's
Right.
a little bit deeper than that. A lot of bit deeper than that.
I think if you take out the choice factor, it dismantles their whole argument.
There you
That's
go.
just my opinion.
And then the kind
Yeah.
of
If
argument is that
the
it's not a
moment
choice.
right, it's a sexual preference, so you choose that.
Right.
Yeah,
You also
exactly.
We can't choose to be black and come
right
outside and be like, I'm not black
now
or I am black. No, you're
you
black when you
can
come
try
outside.
to right now you could try to do things to alter the appearance of it, but we all know how genetics works, and
Right.
there's no bleaching that's gonna affect your genetics right away.
No,
With
we
all this
still know.
trans shit, you could just be transracial now. Shit.
Let me pose this.
That's another rebel cause type of situation.
Yeah.
God damn it, I'm white black. What the fuck you talking about?
Let me pose this. And it was a two-part question, but I know the first part was going to be dynamic. How do you guys, and I'm assuming like myself, you guys are heterosexual men, right?
Yes.
Don't let me find out.
I think we all heterosexual here.
Ain't no
Yeah.
boxing gloves over here, boy.
Right? So, how do you guys deal with your potentiality or you being a parent, how it affects your ethics and codes, but more so the fact that homosexuality, the LGBTQ is now in legislation. It's actually a law. The laws that are developed to protect one's right to advocate a lifestyle. How does that implicate in your life? How does that affect your life?
Yeah, shit, it don't.
You don't. You don't. I mean, you don't.
It don't.
Sorry.
So, do you think it's fair?
The allegory that I
Fair
would find.
legislation.
Do we think what is fair? They have
They have
legislation behind.
laws now that give
Like
caveats
for homosexual to be
to
able
the
to be legally
lifestyle.
married.
To that lifestyle. Getting married, marriage is legal in some states
but
for those the people that adopt that lifestyle, so forth.
but but here's my thing. Like, even if it wasn't legal, people were still doing it. So,
Yeah.
so it's making it
Yeah,
legal is not going to promote them to do it more. It's just saying, okay, now we'll be more open with it. But
and I was
yeah,
gonna add, like, if you look at again, if you look at the statistics behind gay marriage, shit, they got just as much divorce and domestic violence as heterosexual couples. So I don't.
Yeah,
I mean,
that part about it. I mean, I don't care. You can get legally married. It doesn't matter, right? Like
yeah,
I already don't really care
So
about the
why do you think
establishment of marriage
citizens
anyway.
rallied so hard behind the legislation of that lifestyle versus just living it? Why did it have to be written into law? You think?
because
Human
America is a Christian nation, whether we
Right.
what I'm saying, disagree with it. But you know what I'm saying, like most, like especially the South, like it's very conservative. They don't agree with homosexuality because the Bible says this and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
But I think a lot of the sexual liberation from I think was it the 70s, that
hmm
gave way to what I'm saying, the LGBTQ. I don't know all that shit, but they gave way to what you see today, and it was it was a fight back from the oppression of, oh, you live in a different lifestyle than me and I'm going to oppress you. I do understand where they're coming from as far as society not accepting them for who they
They were
are.
just addressing the principality of the issue. That's kind of what
Yeah,
they was getting at. So just because the wording exists as man and woman, let's make
right.
sure that we can change that
Yeah,
and make it could be woman woman or man man just for the sake of the principle. So I don't care. That's fine. You want
yeah,
to do that?
right, right.
That's fine. But
I,
I liken it to, hey, I want to have two wives, so that's a preference. So I should be able to do that too, right? So they should be able to advocate for me to want to do that if I want to. You know what I'm saying? Because that's the same level of operation it is. That's just a preference on how you would like to be married officially, whereas it could only be male and female, just one of one and one of the other. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Right, right.
Yeah.
But to answer Kasu's question, I think the political matter behind it, because it's all political, whether it's socio-political or they actually go into legislation. I think the political factor behind it is one recognition and quote unquote permission to do it in public is like one of the main reasons where they got that far, and then also benefits. So there's going to
Right.
be a benefits factor. It's the
Yeah.
same way when women came out and spoke back in, I think it was the 80s or so. They wanted their own rights, as if they didn't have rights, so they had to speak out on it, and it became a whole women's movement, and therefore they gain benefits from that. And then same thing with the gay pride movement, and now with the LGBTQ movement, it's the same mold. But I think you know allowing this to be doesn't necessarily affect us directly, but I think socially it's unnecessary because to me it's the equivalent of PETA banning eating meat legally. I mean, it's dumb. It's it's
Right.
it's it's a preference. Like you have your own opinion. I mean, if we were in a different type of legislation where maybe we were like Russia or something, where governed differently, then that's something that could be used or necessary. But I don't think it's necessary. I just think that they want recognition and benefits behind it.
Yeah. I mean, like, what they really want, they want the state to issue marriage license. That's what it all boils down to, because
Correct.
So
But
okay,
they were getting married without it. So what's going to change with the benefits?
It's
well,
going to be right,
yeah,
right. The
yeah,
benefits, the alimony, the take half,
Taxes,
the
taxes.
yeah.
taxes, the
Taxes,
right,
the benefits, the health
the
benefits,
inheritance,
Life
right,
insurance.
life
beneficiary,
insurance, all that.
right, right,
Because
right.
like with health benefits, like if say for instance, if they had two females, one female works and one stays at home, they
Hmm.
they push for, hey, I want to put my spouse on my health insurance and my life insurance. Well, you're not married, so that was part of the issue. Okay, so they pushed for that, and they, what I'm saying, they finally got most states to recognize their marriage. So boom, now my spouse can, be on my beneficiary of my life insurance, health insurance, and then of course, we share an estate, whatever that is. So I mean, that's really what they push for. I mean, and like you said, Mel, like they were doing it before, but they just wanted the state to recognize it. And they don't bother me. Like that's their business. It's not mine. Like I'm not gonna go out in the streets and protest.
Right. I mean,
You
I
know
can
what I'm
see
saying?
why they would want to do that for
Yeah,
the benefits because they're being denied them because they're quote unquote a couple. But like that shouldn't be like the focus. I mean, I can see why it is, but
yeah,
it really shouldn't be the focus. Um, it's like two people getting married just so that way they can have those benefits, and then not
Mm-hmm.
realize that depending on their situation, they might actually receive more benefits single. Like it just
Correct.
depends. So I
Correct.
think a
And
lot
then
of
there's a
times,
roundabout way to
yeah,
kind
I
of
think
get all the stuff done that you wanted to get done anyway without being married.
correct. And then yeah, so yeah, I think it's just unnecessary. But that's my opinion.
Well, as contemporary black men in relationships today, do you guys feel that women actually are attracted to you and want you? Or do you get this sense of separation? Because it looks like, from a black perspective, the love factor is kind of gone. It's more practical to be Is it practical to be with that person or not?
That's a very good question, and I
Yeah.
think
It just
from
seems
my
like black women
experience,
don't care about black men anymore. I'm just asking.
some men might feel that way. Of course, that's not true on the whole, right? On the whole, I would say that's not
Yeah.
true on the whole. I think there's an innocence somewhere. There's people that don't have this corruption in their thoughts that we're thinking about when we talk about this scenario. And so like this whole young love, puppy love type thing is that's what gets us out of this, because those kind of young people that don't know to hate yet will love their partner based on their personality, so on and so forth. Now they will be ridiculed though by the older people that say, look, man, this person ain't got no business. You know what I'm saying? They not gonna do nothing for you financially. So why do you even like them? But they're forgetting that we are biological. We are physical creatures, right? We have hormones and shit that don't care about what's in your bank account and all that. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is the ticket out of this, misery situation that we think of when we talk about, well, the woman doesn't love the black man, because she's just basically demanding that you make X amount and you bring home the bacon in this sort of way, and then she'll fuck with you, which is kind of telling me that she don't really fuck with me for real. you know?
Well,
Right.
I mean, well, I was gonna just say like what I think a lot of women are I guess misunderstanding about black men, that these black men were once black boys, and you got to look at their upbringing. So
Hmm.
if they didn't have a man to teach them how to be a man as a child, as a boy, whether it be an uncle, a father, grandfather, if they didn't have that around, how can you expect them to know how to be a man once they turn,
I
Correct.
I
you know what I'm saying?
I
And how to love it?
partially disagree. I don't want to change from the topic, but I
Uh,
do partially disagree with that. Just
you know,
because at some point you do become adult. At some point you do know responsibilities. I mean, if you're in a position where you aren't able to reach that point, then that's understandable. But I think at some point you do have to be an adult. At some point you do have to realize, like,
yeah,
hey, I have a certain type of responsibilities. Yes, your father or not having a father figure or male figure there to help you doesn't necessarily give you the proper upbringing that you are expected to have, but it doesn't mean that that's necessarily preventing you from, still being an adult and still handling your responsibilities. I think a lot of times people don't realize that because you were able to make it through that particular type of situation, then at least you are not completely damaged behind it. Yes, there may be some mental issues behind the scenes, but at the end of the day, I just think like you got responsibilities. So
So accountability then. So it's up to
yes,
you to make the decision
yeah,
as
but
this
see,
broken
yeah,
person that I'm gonna at least
but
try to
right,
but
be
but
but
I'm saying at
this
kids,
least
figure.
right, but I'm saying at least you. I mean, as a human being in today's society, those responsibilities you learn either on the fly or someone teaches you. But
hmm
either way, you kind of have an idea of right and wrong.
hmm
yeah,
So
yeah,
that
right and wrong is different. Right and wrong is first of all, like it's that still is instilled by your upbringing, like your society, your culture, your household instills what's right and wrong, your morals and your beliefs. So and
right,
then
but
that,
you
that
can
stays with
you
you.
can have all of that without necessarily having a father figure there.
That's my point. Like, what if that's not there? And then
But
um the
but
way the way
you have it. Just not having that father figure there, or let's say not even having your mom and your dad there to necessarily raise you, doesn't remove those core values because you make them up. They come
Mm-hmm.
from what you decide is vitally important to you and your sustenance in life. That's something you come to the conclusion with yourself. Yes,
Correct.
that you can carry those on from those who birthed you and came before you, but you also can make your own. And many of us do without realizing that as we
Right.
become into adulthood. So that's what I'm saying. I get where mentally it may cause some issues, but as an adult,
You
you
still have to
still
make that
have
commitment that says, look,
correct,
even though it may not be exactly how the textbook, should say, I'm gonna at least try to do this, right?
correct,
I'm not gonna
correct.
say, woe is me, I can't be
Because
capable because of my upbringing. Just think, what did the first, you know, products of a broken home, whatever. What did those people do? They strived and they said,
right,
I'm gonna do the best I can, damn it, even though I don't
correct,
know shit. I'm
and
gonna do the
then
best I can. You gotta at least have that attitude.
Well,
right,
a lot of
right, and
times
then
those people from those broken homes just repeated what they saw because as kids, we don't want to hear a sermon. We want to see a sermon. So I mean
agreed,
that really sticks with us, whether we know
agreed,
it or not, in our subconscious. And then
agreed.
lo and behold, you get older and you find yourself doing some of the same stuff that you saw when you was younger, and you don't even know it.
Right, right. Agree, agreed.
Yeah,
But something I was gonna say, even in a family or a household where you do have that father figure there that can teach you how to be a man, there are also some that have that, and they also have negative effects on that child as well, based upon the behavior of that person, whether they have
yeah,
any type of illnesses or addictions,
Mm-hmm.
things like that. So
yeah.
they can also be a negative effect to that as well. And
Where
that's what I'm saying.
abnormal
Like,
behavior is now
correct,
normalized.
correct, correct.
Yeah, yeah. So when I say father, I mean a father, like a man, not a male, a man. Like, you know what I'm saying? I ain't talking about somebody that's there,
I
an
agree, I agree, I agree. But I think
alcoholic, a
right,
wind
right.
up, whatever the fuck you want to call it. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's a different. But my thing is, I know personally, like society, like when you dealing with black males in relationships, society, when boys are younger, they don't want them to show emotion. They don't want them to express themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And
but
and they,
you gotta look at those who came before us that were in that situation where maybe doing that wasn't necessarily best for their family.
right.
Maybe necessarily doing that wasn't necessarily best for them. Maybe there was some uh, some sort of negative response behind that. Maybe there was bullying. Maybe there was some form of punishment or correction because of that. So you gotta. It's too many variables
Mm-hmm.
with that in order to just isolate it into one particular situation.
No, no,
Um,
it's not. It's definitely a variable. But I do know that a gripe that I hear from our women is that we don't know how to express ourselves, be affectionate, all
that
the above.
comes right. I hear we hear a lot as well, especially in our community. That
Yeah.
comes with time and maturity, and eventually you get to a point where you're like, okay, I'm going to be me regardless. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. And then just
Mm-hmm.
be straight up with that as a person. A lot of times people are 50-50. Oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't want them to judge me in that manner, or something like that. So I think that's where you run into issues when you start having those type of feelings or showing that type of behavior. That's when things don't work out. But I think ultimately going back to Cassie's question, society has changed. It used to be different where it was a male dominant society. Now it's not. This it's a female dominated society. That they have a lot more benefits now that have changed their social status. A lot of them are making more money than men. So there's because of that shift in society, there's gonna be a shift in relationships and qualifications for relationships and things like that. I think that because of that, we have to look at, what are the qualifications of a relationship based upon the person that you're trying to be with. Maybe they require you to make a certain amount of money, or maybe they don't require you to do that. They just require you to behave a certain type of way. So I think,
So for the heterosexual men that are listening in, have you found it far more difficult to court or entertain a woman? Is she quick to dismiss? Have women become more offensive because women just don't seem motivated? I hear them say they're motivated, but their criteria list seems a bit irrational to me.
I think I think that's because they don't really know what they want. They have an idea, but
Mm-hmm.
they really don't know what they want. And a lot of times they make compromises because of that. And so you see, like me and Triz discussed earlier, where the woman says, this man has to have XYZ, but then you see her with somebody, they don't meet those qualifications. So I think it's just more so they don't know what they want.
Mm-hmm.
that,
They
that's
have an idea.
that's that's pretty accurate. Um, like I don't mean to sound harsh, but when I hear women talk about what they want, I really don't listen because I go look at your baby father and he's the total opposite, or baby fathers, total opposite.
Yeah.
So
Or the person you're currently dating and you just talking to me, getting me ready, and I'm seeing the
yeah,
person that you're currently dating. Yeah.
You see, a lot of times that's because the person they were recently with or the person they're currently with is lacking in something, and that lack is causing them to feel a certain type of way.
okay. Well, check this out. How about leave that person? How about leave that person and those type of people alone? You know what I'm saying?
but but
Instead
his
of trying to
thing,
be with somebody and try to fulfill something that's that should be within yourself instead of trying to superficially uh look for fulfillment in someone else. Yeah, I mean,
so
that's the major
so
part.
we can get to the psychology factor of that because that's a good point. But
Mm.
there are some people who can't be by themselves. Some people who just they don't do
Right.
that. They have
Right.
to have somebody there with them.
Something is wrong if
Just
they're by themselves.
correct. There's some people who, if they're not in a relationship, they feel like they're gonna be judged by others a certain type of way, so they always have to keep somebody.
Poor them. I mean, look,
Right.
I don't know how
So
they feel, but
and I'm just explaining, the psych factor behind
yeah.
why so many people make these type of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So there's several reasons as to why they won't leave. Logically, you say just get out of that situation, but or maybe they're relying on them for financial reasons. You never
Mm-hmm.
know. But
Mm-hmm.
there are too many factors for that, and that's why a lot of them don't leave. Logically, yes, you should get the heck out of that situation, but they don't. So they just compare, and they try to build a guy like you build a bear.
Uh-huh.
Right. Yep.
Oh, and before we get off, I want to go back to what Constance was asking about. Women becoming dismissive and being, more sort of like, well, if you ain't doing this, then fuck you, nigga, type of shit. I think part of that also has to do with the fear of success that comes from choosing a person to go ahead and grow with. There's a little bit of ego there where it's like, I don't want to let this person in to where they know all the places where I'm lacking at. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And the places where I need improvement. I feel better if they just don't even know that shit and they just fulfill these obligations that I set forth or whatever type of thing and just be real dismissive with them. Because after all, dudes have done that for so long and, it's kind of like the female's revenge or whatever. And so to justify, these actions, right? Like you guys did that and treated us like, whatever. So now I'm doing the same thing. Get with it. You know what I mean? A lot of that is just fear of the success that comes with having a good relationship. So then they just end up missing out basically on some good aspects of people that they kind of keep at bay. So they gonna keep themselves in a messed up situation doing that.
Right, but not only fear of that, also fear of letting somebody in. You got to keep that in mind too.
Right.
Letting somebody
Yeah.
in and having them look in your closet and see all the skeletons you have, and
Mhm.
instead of maybe say, "Hey, this is who I was or who I am,"
Mm-hmm.
you try to
Yeah.
hide it and cloak it and
There's a
things like
shame
that.
there. Like
Yep.
maybe they wouldn't mess with me if they knew this about me or whatever.
Yep.
Right. And to piggyback off that, this might sound crazy, but my personal experience, this is my perspective. I I think women like me to treat them a certain way, and it is not always good. Like if I try to be a gentleman and do the courting thing, I don't get too much of a response. That's just my experience. But
Yeah, yeah. You're the wrong generation, are we?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And then when I turn that shit off and like, you know what, fuck that. If I say that, and then all of a sudden I get more phone calls, more text messages. Hey, can we do this? Can we do that? And
Check
it's
it
like,
out.
man, like, that
I
that's a
got the
little
I got the
confusing.
perfect analogy for this, dude.
Go ahead.
We used to be a society where you signed a contract for your goods and services that were like long term. Like you remember, you used to sign 2 year agreements to have your phone and all that. But guess
Still
what?
Yeah,
do.
Guess
Yep,
what?
yep.
Yeah, you still do. But guess what? More and more people now are saying, you know what? I'd rather just go month to month. I don't know if I want to keep your ass. I don't
Yo,
know
this
if I
is
want to
fact.
keep your ass. I don't know if you gonna want to keep me. So let's just keep it 100. And if you coming at me with this courting and all this and and meeting the family, and now that puts responsibility on my mind where I got to live up to a certain thing and I have to meet this right with some sort of maturity, and maybe I don't want to. So now if I got somebody on my line that's like they could be here today and then ghost on me next week, but I'm not gonna trip because that just means that there's less I have to put in as far as work.
yep,
So in the back of my mind, I really hope that you just treat me for real, because that just gets it cuts to the chase. You know what I mean?
Right,
It
right.
cuts to the chase because you might not really like me at the end of the day. So in order to deal with that rejection, let's just deal with the rejection up front. You see what I'm saying? So Josh, when you come at him on your Rick James shit, they like, okay, I'm gonna fuck with him because he's gonna be fun for a little while, and then when I get tired or he get tired, it'll be easy to let go of that. Whereas if you got this good motherfucker, you're gonna be thinking about that shit. Like, God damn, I shouldn't have let that motherfucker go. God damn. You know?
yeah, that's true.
That's true. That's true.
We got a question.
Let's see. Yeah, yeah, I see it here.
It says, I think an important question is why are black men not putting in as much effort to make as much money as black women? Why aren't the men trying as hard?
Mm-mm.
Anybody want to try that?
Whoa, time out. Flag on the play. Hold on. we do appreciate the question, and you know what? That might be where you are in your life right now to come at it that way. I don't know if that's true. I don't know, what the statistics are and all that. I would say, and this goes back to our beginning of the show where we said black relationships have a different kind of pressure and a different kind of substance to it than other relationships. And that's all we know because we are black. You see what I'm saying? So we can't speak from no other perspective. But to say that this question is evidence of the extreme pressure that's on both men and women that are black. You know what I'm saying?
Something I want to add to that, because you're right, Trish, but we got to take it back. We got to take it back to 60s, 70s, even 50s, where the only type of jobs most men could get were that they qualified for were labor jobs. And even then, it was the same situation where they didn't make enough money. They were always at work. And that's kind of sort of like the similar situation we have nowadays with everything being technical and automated. You have to have certain qualifications in order to make a certain type of money. Labor is out the window. That's been automated now, so you have to have a special field that you fit in order to make at least enough money to live within your means. And I think that approaching that goal for the average person is not necessarily easy.
Okay, I see where you're coming from there. The
Yeah, you got to
technology.
go
So
through.
women are very highly schooled.
Correct.
A lot of these men, a lot of us have done these
Or
physical jobs, and we're not
right,
necessarily transitioning into the new technical jobs or whatever as
right,
frequently
or
as she. I don't know.
right, or it's not necessarily just that women are highly schooled, but maybe they took the jobs that men couldn't take or that men didn't want to do, and
Yeah, and
they specialize in that, on their own experience, and because of that, now they've matured in that position to now have financial, success. So that's also another factor. Again, very similar to how things were in the past.
Mm-hmm.
also I would say, even though we come from, we have similar or the same origins in black neighborhoods. I think our path to adulthood is a little different.
Yes,
Um,
yes,
man, like you talking about being a young boy or a teenager growing up in a single parent home, and a lot of pressure is on you to either get your own money or make money for your family or whatever. And you know how we get down. You know what I'm saying? Like, we get it from the dirt. Like,
mm-hmm.
go out there, make a lot of uncalculated risk, and get caught, get
Mm-hmm.
put in the system. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's way tougher for that kid to get a job when he gets older. And on the flip side, we push a lot of our boys to be athletes, which
Yep.
I don't see nothing
There we
wrong with it.
go.
But it's like, why can't he be a scientist? Why can't he be a politician?
Right,
Why
right.
why does he
The,
have to
it,
shoot a
it's
basketball?
it's
You know what I'm
it's
saying?
going in that direction now because of the demand of finances. So
Right.
it's just that he has to go through the schooling. That means the parents have to put him through
Mm-hmm.
schooling, and
Mm-hmm.
for parents to put them through schooling, they have to make enough money to be able to take care of that. And then a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times, especially in today's society, you'll find a lot of children, even after 18, still living at home because they're still going to school. So it's going in that direction. Technology has kind of boosted that, but it's not 100% there yet.
Yeah, and the
Right.
sports thing was a big one because
Still
the
is.
sports thing. No, I just
Oh
mean to bring it
yes.
up. It's good to bring it up because
Yeah.
a lot of these boys, they may not even want to play, but
Facts.
they're riding on. They have the hopes of their mom and dad, who's like, "Look, you got to make this money, and our dream is
Yep.
going to come true." So really, this is another calculated risk because
Yep.
only like 3% of these students is going to go to the NFL, NBA, so on. But guess
Man.
but
And
but
most of
guess
them end
what?
up broke.
But guess
Not,
what? If you
not
go
just
and get
that,
that
they get
technology
hurt.
degree, right? You go and get that technology degree, you don't have to worry about losing your income if you get hurt, so on and so forth. You see what I'm saying? So just like going to flip weight or whatever it is that we out here doing, trying to be a football star is kind of in the same vein as being very highly risky, and it probably won't work. But if it does, then guess what? We hit the jackpot. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And a lot of families they go that route because they're willing to make the investment on that type of risk. That's the
Correct.
thing.
Correct.
They're consciously willing to do that, and they're willing
It's
to support it. And no, I'm not sure if
it's
you
seen
guys
as
have.
more sustainable than it is actually.
Correct. And I'm not sure if you guys caught up on the news about the colleges now are in a position where they have to start paying these children, these
Yep.
kids.
Yep.
That's going to be, again, another factor in
Another
this entire
motivator.
situation. Yes.
Yep. Another
Yeah. I mean,
motivator.
but I think if we were more aware of what a pro player, a pro athlete really makes, like in the NBA and the NFL, we wouldn't really push most of our boys to do that stuff. Because I saw something on YouTube the other day. It was this guy. He had a pay stub from a pro football player. And I think this pro football player, I think he got paid like $500,000 in like a week. And
Mhm.
by the time they took out all the taxes or all the places he traveled,
Yep.
hotel,
Yep.
he had a net. Yeah, his net worth, his net balance was like $0
Yeah.
out of five hundred
Yeah.
thousand dollars. Like,
Yeah.
damn.
There's a lot of factors that come into that. The most important factor is your agent. So
Yeah,
knowing your agent and whether that agent is a shark or not does matter, but also lifestyle. Um, there's a lot of pro ball players who are lucky enough to step away from the game and they're still financially adept. So it just depends on lifestyle and a lot of times when you're always on the road and you're traveling to different states, sometimes different countries, um, you can get a bit reckless.
and
But I
let's
think
take this a step further though. Let's let's say that I would say that women tend to be more attracted to the guys that take those uncalculated risks.
yes,
You know what I'm
yes,
saying? Like selling dope. You know what I'm
Of
yes.
saying?
course,
Athletes.
the lottery is sexy.
Yeah, they get all the vagina. You know what I'm saying? Like dope dealers and athletes. Like
Yep.
the guy in the house studying to be a scientist or whatever. Like he a nerd. You know what I'm saying? But you
Yep.
got you got a dope boy on the corner, man. He got all the women in the neighborhood. So I mean, if you ever listen to an ex drug dealer or ex gang member, they always say, I wanted that lifestyle because I saw the older guys in the neighborhood. They had all the women,
Mm-hmm.
all the money,
Right.
Yeah.
et cetera, et cetera. So it's like I don't know, like you can't have your cake and eat it. You can't say that you want.
Well,
I don't know.
okay.
I ain't gonna go there. I ain't gonna.
But you
No.
also
Before you even go there, let me add on by introducing this. Our culture and society also drives us to do this too, right? Because
yep.
what's the reward really for being a scientist that discovers new things about ostriches? Does he get paid enough to make it worth it to be his wife and fucking cook him dinner and shit when we barely being able to pay off this Toyota and shit that we got off of
Mhm.
him being a nerd? Is it
Mhm.
really that worth it? Like, is it fair that he gets paid that much? And I don't want to be married to him, and he already just make enough just to support himself. But then I want to throw kids in there, myself, and all this stuff, and the big
Yep.
wedding and all that. So why not have somebody that could potentially get the big winner, right? And then we can really do the big wedding and all that stuff, which a lot of these guys have done that have hit the lotto, right? They turned around and they went in with a lady, right? And did the damn thing. Had the big wedding, the big house, all of that stuff, whatever she wants. Or if it doesn't work, then it's easy to break up with that loser because he was he
Mhm.
was he was dead wrong from the beginning. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right. And then you can't forget also about the bad guy, the bad boy complex that still exists.
Hell yeah.
So, so can't forget about
Of
you
course.
can't
That
forget
that's
about
that's all
how
part of it.
yeah you can't forget about how attractive that is to some people as a requirement.
Correct. A lot of those ladies that Joshua was talking about, they were leaving a simple guy who made just enough money, but it was cool, but he was just tired from working or whatever the case, and he wasn't really down with the action or whatever. She left him and came down the hill to go run with the dude that got the motorcycle, and
Right.
he doesn't
Or
wear a helmet, you know what I mean, or whatever.
right. Or she wants her cakes, or she wants her cake and wants to eat it too because she'll marry him, but then she'll go cheat.
Correct, correct,
Oh
correct,
man.
correct. But yeah, it's not anybody's fault. So what I wanted to introduce is that it's not necessarily it's the man's fault for this or it's the woman's fault. No, society drives us to be this way also
Correct.
because we know it's not a lot of money out there in honest work and shit like that. Like we know that now in 2019. We did not know that in the 70s or whatever. We were
Hell no.
still aspiring for it, right? We was aiming for the stars, all that shit. Now, my nigga, no. We know the facade is lifted off. We know we're not going to get paid enough to be a caretaker of children. We know
Right.
we're not going to get paid enough to even build
Right.
a skyscraper or whatever, unless we're the top firm. And then we behave in a way that's greedy, that allows us to get all the architectural funds and to put in our pocket. And then now we're not paying somebody else that's on the bottom that's doing the work on the floor. You see what I'm saying? Like
Right.
we know that's how this works.
So
So
I got a question. Um, piggybacking off this question that she asked. Um, okay, so let's just say you meet a woman that makes more than you. Are you intimidated by that as
No,
men?
no,
not
Okay.
me, not me. No,
no.
sir.
That just brings more to
I
the
build my
table.
women up to shoot for that.
Yeah.
Right.
Don't look at my salary as a cap, like, oh, I can't make more than that.
No.
No, yeah, you can.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be surprised. I hear a lot of that. I hear a lot of women say
I,
that men are intimidated by because I make this much a year. I'm like, how the hell are they intimidated? And why are they intimidated? I'm just curious
I mean,
to
maybe there's
hear.
some
I
that
think
are, but with that said, there's women that are as well. That's like, oh, you make
right.
more than me. It makes me
I,
feel lesser than, especially coming from the men used to be in charge and patriarchal and all that. It makes me feel even so much worse that this
I,
man makes more than me.
I feel like as long as you guys are working together and you don't hold it over their head and vice versa, it's not like an ego thing with the two of you, then that's fine because it works. But a lot of times people like to smother that into the relationship where somebody would piss
Mm-hmm.
them off and they were like, you know what? That's why the fuck I make more money than you. Or they'll do like some type of ego trip
Yeah, or like a
and
possessive thing, right? Like I bought you that, and I'm about to
yeah.
take it away. I'm taking it
Oh,
back from you.
we gotta talk about possessiveness. We gotta
Yeah,
talk
yeah.
about that.
That's definitely an issue, is possessiveness. So that goes right into the segue is great for this, because even if people are making the same amount of money, right, equal, they're evenly yoked and all of that, come from the same type of family that had the same type of money or whatever, nobody's bigger than the other, you still are gonna have these issues with possessiveness, potentially. You're still
Hmm.
gonna have,
Mm-hmm.
this is how I spend my money on you, and I feel like you not respecting it or whatever. So now
Ooh,
I'm gonna rein in what I was doing for you.
ooh.
I'm gonna rein in what
You
I
know
was
what that
doing for
is?
you.
That's poor communication and poor planning. If
Yep.
Yeah.
like that should be established before you even guys, you know what I'm saying, start
Facts.
dating. Like if you guys come to agreement before you even start, my money is my money, your money is your money. Like, okay, boom, no surprises. But
Mm-hmm.
you guys start off, you know what I'm saying, I'm taking care of everything, and then your significant other get a job, but that your significant other's money is their money, and then you
Uh-huh.
left. You know what I'm saying? Like then that's when it comes a little tricky right there. But I think all that should be established when
Yes,
you first.
sir.
Yeah, it should
It's
be
almost like a
established.
business, man.
Yeah. It
It's
should be
exactly
established,
like
like
that.
you said. And when any changes come up, you gotta have a conversation. Like, it seems simple, logically speaking, but then once you get into the throes of it, I guess you see where people don't revisit and have conversation. Like, okay, things have changed. Now let's see what we can do with this extra money that you're making. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're not just gonna do that where, oh, you said you were just gonna pay for everything, and then I'm no. We're a couple, so we're supposed to be planning. Like, at least you could be putting that money on some other plans that we got, that benefit both of us or whatever. But at least have that conversation. Don't go years not having the convo, and then now you just have this big blow up, this falling out or whatever, right? Depression or whatever.
Right. And that goes with everything, bro. That goes with social media. That goes with
Hmm.
all like social life, all that. Like if you don't have that conversation about, I don't like you posting all them IG photos on Instagram. I don't like you doing this on Facebook. I don't like you going out with your girl. If you don't establish that when you first meet this person, it's gonna be hell later on down the road when it
Right.
becomes,
That's where
what I'm
the honesty comes in because you got to be
Yes.
like, hey, I'm the type of person I don't like it when you do this. Like if you say
Right.
that from the jump, and they respect you, you won't have no more problems. But if they don't respect you and you see that, that's automatic red flag. Automatic.
Right. I totally agree.
Mm, that's a good point.
And also, I want to bring up, since we are talking about it, holding things over somebody's head in order to get them motivated to do what you want them to do. That's another form of possessiveness,
And it don't work.
and it does not work. If anything, at the end of the day, you're gonna get fooled because they're gonna be like, okay, yeah, I'm doing that. And
No, no,
meanwhile, they have
you just gonna piss them off. That's what you really gonna do. Is just piss them off, and they're not gonna do it just
ultimately
cause. Yeah.
right, but they might even be slick and play you first, like you deserve it
Oh,
because
of
of how
course.
you acting. You deserve to get played first, and then once that gets found out, then I'm gonna blow up and be like, well, you shouldn't, you shouldn't have came at me like that or whatever. I don't really want to do this. And matter of fact, I'm not doing it now. You know what I'm saying? Fuck you.
Yeah. And see, that's why boundaries are good to establish. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yes, sir.
when somebody crosses that boundary, like that's good with business, that's good with relationships,
Mm-hmm.
workplace. Like you have to establish boundaries. Like you have to set the bar yourself. And once someone does not, meet those expectations or crosses that boundary, you have to let them know that this is not acceptable. Like you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
Correct.
Like
No,
it's
no, that's it. Have that open line of communication as opposed to just irrational. I'm gonna cut you off. No, you got to have the convo. I'm
Mm-hmm.
upset. I'm upset at
right.
this. It doesn't mean that we're gonna go off
A,
the rails, but I'm
a,
making
lot,
sure you know where I'm at.
a lot of people don't sit down and have that conversation.
I know I ain't had that damn conversation. Boy, I was in for a rude awakening. That's what taught me so much right now. I look back at it like, damn, I ain't asked this person this. We ain't talk about that. We just getting high, drinking,
Mm.
and doing what couples do. That's all we was doing. We didn't think about business. We didn't think about jobs, finances, none of that stuff. We ain't playing nothing. Like, and so that's kind of why when everything hit the fan, I look back on it like I couldn't even blame her because that what she showed me was what she always showed me from day one. So that's
Facts.
not her
Mm-hmm.
fault. It's my
Yeah,
fault.
you gotta watch those signs.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's
So,
hard. It's hard not to, keep the blame on other people, because you're heartbroken from what happened or whatever. But you're right. Like the way we're raised, our culture, society,
mm,
there's all these things, that come into play as to why we act the way we do. And you just have to think like people ain't out to get you per se. It's not like you can't think like that. Like everybody I dealt with was a negative experience because then you got to point back at yourself. Like, okay, what's wrong with me now? If
Facts.
every goddamn interaction was a bad interaction and woe is me. Hold on, what do I consist of? What am I bringing to the table? What's going on here?
Yeah, a lot of
It,
people don't do that.
it's not always everybody's fault. It's just the reality that they behave the way that you should expect them to behave. That's what they showed you, like you said in the beginning.
right.
Don't be mad. Don't be mad.
Facts.
And for the people that stay together and grow and all that kind of stuff, they find themselves talking about this stuff, eventually being able to laugh about it, growing from it, right? Getting tighter, tightening up their game because they want to for the other person because they know they deserve that. When it's a healthy relationship these couples will have these conversations about these particular things. But the people that don't, the people that run away, they're kind of mature or whatever, it's gonna always go that way. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Yep.
So that just goes back into the whole it's very hard to have a relationship because you do have to be communicative when you do not want to be, when you're upset, you want to act a fool, you burning up inside because of an action that somebody did, but you got to remain calm and understand that there's another perspective, right? It ain't just about how you see things and all that. And if you really fuck with your mate enough, you will allow them the opportunity to get right, to explain themselves or whatever the case may be, to correct the issue, to keep the bond tight and make it tighter over time. So it's just like how much you're willing to invest based on the quality of the person that you're dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
That go for any kind of relationship to me. You
Yeah.
know, a lot of what's wrong is we place a value on certain kind of relationships more than others, and then so we go into it not respecting it. You know, like if it's friends with benefits, some people gonna look at that like, well, I could lie to this person. I could, you know what I'm saying? I don't
Right,
have
right.
to really care about this person. But no, all of that shit applies no matter what style of relationship that is.
Mm-hmm.
You have to observe transparency if you want to stay away from all of this mental anguish and all this stuff that we hear about from the people that was married and they say don't do it, you know, and all that shit. If you want to avoid all that shit, you need to be transparent so that you're not wasting your time and then end up mad at the end of the day like everybody else or whatever.
Yep.
And
Mm.
that's it's cultural. Some people will always sort of find themselves in a negative cycle just because of the culture they were raised in was in a toxic, you know, monogamous, in our case, Christian monogamous paradigm where it's sort of just okay to be toxic and just hide it and go to church and act like you prayed it away, but you still going to cheat after you get back from church, you know, and so on. Like that's okay because you respect that monogamy more than let's say polygamy or polyandry or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it is just that right there. The level we meet on is going to determine, you know, how much you respect it or whatever. So it's like you got to be transparent. If I'm gonna be your fuck buddy, I want to be a goddamn honorable fuck buddy. Don't lie to me, bitch. Don't lie to me. I'm not gonna lie to you.
The boy said,
Yeah.
honorable fuck, but why you ever
For
heard of
real. For real. Cause you never
Funny.
know. You might grow to like me and then you want to fuck with me, but then now you can't because you didn't lied and played on me and shit. So now you can't even. That's not even an option no more.
Yeah, and really you played yourself because if you could have actually had something decent, so
Mm-hmm.
you played
Facts.
yourself.
Yeah.
Yo, Consul, you got some more questions?
I don't see any new question or nothing. I think we good, man. We This is a really good show, powerful. We had a lot of good info, man. I think we probably should just go ahead and wrap that on up.
Wait, I got one last question. What about
Go ahead, go ahead.
what we were talking about
Years or whatever.
black men and relationships? What we talking about, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, from the perspective of us black men, yeah.
All right. What about the perspective of women from other ethnicities? I guess you could say. What
Oh,
about black men dating women from other ethnicities?
it's doable. You know, I'm not gonna say that you can't do that because again, in our black communities, we got non-blacks that's familiar with how we move to the point where we can be comfortable enough to go ahead and date them, right?
Right.
So people are gonna do what they do. However, I will say it's a little bit more. You have a little bit more trust issues there naturally if you're coming from like slightly different ethnicities or whatever. Even if you live in the same city, there might be a little bit more trust issue, or when something breaks down, it's more like, oh well, my mama told me y'all was gonna act like that or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas somebody that's from your own, you kind of feel more of a oneness and more of a like it's not going to be too much of a surprise when we argue. We know how the arguments go. I know what you're going to do, you know, and that kind of thing. Whereas if I'm with a Chinese person, I don't know what the fuck they do when they get mad. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So
Yep.
it can happen, but I'm not gonna say that's like a solution to any problems or nothing like that. You're still gonna have the same, you know, gender uh issues or the communication between the genders and stuff and the responsibilities and all that. It's gonna be the same thing. You know,
Right.
and even you might even have heightened pressure because you gotta, look right and represent for the African American team if you dealing with somebody else because they're gonna have a taste in their mouth about black people based off of you. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, oh yeah, yeah. You make that first impression. I think when in those type of situations, it's very important to be yourself, because a lot of times the opposite culture may think that that's how all of us are, and then they get this misconceived notion that well, all black guys are this way. So then this is something that they are like, when really you should just say from the gate like, no, this is me. So
Yeah, I mean, me personally, like, my preference is black women. That has nothing to do with societal pressures or anything like that. Oh, if you can't use a comb, don't bring it home. It ain't got nothing to do with that. I just prefer black women.
right,
So,
right. Yeah. Let's see. Any more questions from the chat? You guys got any questions? Any concerns, comments? Definitely let us know.
arguing with Harry crazy. Look at this shit. Boy, you ain't shit.
Let's see. I'm not seeing any comments. Yeah, this is definitely a good topic. I think we might have like a part 2 or something in the future.
Okay.
So, something to kind of give us a break from the usual. We always studying something and learning something, and this is sort of like a freestyle type of show, just to get everybody's opinion and thoughts. But yeah, I think it's definitely needed.
True.
Yep. Kasi, did you have anything else you want to add?
No, I think that it's pretty dynamic how a lot of like social political things have kind of changed how we operate on a regular basis, even with morals and ethics. It's just interesting how that plays out, even today, because tradition is not necessarily the norm. It's not. Um,
Right.
it's a whole new way of addressing relationships.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in today's society, we kind of expect the other sex to be very traditional, so to speak. Women expect men to be traditional and behavior and things like that. We also expect the same,
All
and I
right.
think that's something we have to kind of get used to. Is that times have changed, so the opposite sex will also change as far as how they see themselves or how they see what it is to be, women. And same thing for men, for us guys. What it takes for us to see ourselves as what it takes to be a man. Those things have changed. Not saying that you can't still pull from those core values, but
This is a topic that was thrown out there, but I don't really know. It's kind of ambiguous.
mm-hmm.
Possession. So we didn't talk about possession, but I don't really understand.
um,
Yeah.
so
We touched on that.
a little bit, but I really wanted to to really dig a little deeper. So a lot of times, especially in relationships, we feel like, and this is for both men and women, we feel like we own the other person. So it's like if we like they're ours, and a lot of times we say that, but like possessively.
Right. Not everybody means it in the same loving, sort of playing bantery way. Some people are like, no, like you're mine, motherfucker.
Right, right. And so a key to me, like a red flag of possessiveness, is when someone says they'll go crazy over you if you're not there, or they'll do some random, weird stuff, like maybe self sabotage or go after somebody violently, because you're not there. So they feel like because they own you that they have a right to sort of like control you, even though
Okay.
you're still fully an adult. You're grown enough to make your own choices and decisions, but they feel like because you guys are together, you're their property instead of
Mm-hmm.
you're somebody they're just with. So I think
Yeah.
that's something that happens a lot, especially in our community.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. There's like a guarding and stuff that happens, right? Like
Right,
like
right,
like some
and
people might say, I don't like you to do certain things on social media, but then there's some people that will say you can't have a social media at all.
yeah, yeah, yep, that's true. Checking
Like they might
phones.
discourage, right? They'll discourage you from even wanting to sort of blossom socially because you feel like you're a bad person if you blossom in socially because this person that you're with is having an adverse reaction and throwing a fit every time
Right,
you're sort of blossoming or reaching out.
right. But what if you're already that person? Now you have to adjust.
Right. Yeah,
Now you
nah, you can't go backwards. You can't do
nah.
that.
So it's not gonna work.
That ain't gonna work at all.
Nah.
That's not how you keep them, sis, or dude. That ain't how you keep her.
Nope. Oh,
That's
what
not.
about? Because a lot of guys be doing this. What about cuffing and just cuffing to be cuffing?
A lot of that is ego, I guess, right? Like I want to show that I'm cuffable, right? Like I can get something cuffed. I want
Right,
to show that I can do that, and so I
right,
can keep up with the other people that are doing it. It gives me a self value that I didn't think I had before. I was able to prove that I can make a motherfucker sit down.
right. But I think that also kind of plays a role into having to have somebody with you at all times.
Oh yeah, there's also that too. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Can't be alone type of person.
Yep.
Yeah. That's very big in our community. The can't be
Yeah.
alone. That's a big one right there, man.
Mm-hmm.
That's a huge one. Men and women, both
Yes,
of
sir.
us.
Yes, sir.
And I think that's cute, right? And sometimes, but it's like if you're letting that take away from your development, like you're not learning how to better yourself or build some skills and stuff that you didn't have before, because you're spending all this time making trying to make somebody do what you want them to do or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah.
You're not being your best self basically by
Right.
being a serial relationship person that just can't be alone, and then you're not making yourself viable for who is going to be ultimately your partner at the end of the day.
Sure. Sure.
At some point you got to get over that. You got to get tired of, okay, I've been making this person lay in the bed, lay up with me for however many months or years or whatever. Like eventually you got to get tired of that shit. What do
Not
I want to do
always.
with
Not
myself?
everybody. Some people actually do uh, get comfortable with it, and they just decide to ride it out until either the other person decides that they had enough,
Uh-huh.
or until it stops working.
Yeah, you got to have ambitions. So that goes into, you have to be like an individual. You can't just live off of or live through vicariously through your mate. You got to have your own things that you're into, your own things that drive you as an individual. To be creative,
Right.
to you know. So I think it goes into that as well.
Right.
And some people, like you said, they do get just comfortable. They may never leave the city they grew up in. They just stay there, laid up in somebody's house, right? That's not theirs, but they like to be kept or whatever, and they just tolerate whatever treatment that they get to be kept or to just have this person there with them all the time without ever actually, you know, striving out there on their own to see what they can fucking do with it with their lives, right? This person there with them all
Right.
the time without. But yeah, that possession is something else, man. When you and then is it really beneficial? Because when you talk about this possession, you're really saying like this mate that I have, the way that they are right now is how I want to keep them. I don't want them to grow any more or any less. I want them to just stay like that, and I just control them and have them next to me all the time, and then I get my enjoyment out of that.
That's what it is for some people. That's all they need. That's all they need.
But
If
that means you're not growing because now your taste hasn't changed in
right, they're settling.
in 10 years or whatever you've been with this person. You've been settling, right?
Right, they're settling. They're getting comfortable, and for some people, it's easy to do that, and so that's why they continue to do that. There's no, as long as the other person, as long as it doesn't ruffle the feathers of the other person, they ride it out. It's when the other person gets sick and tired of being in the same spot. They're sick and tired of
Mm-hmm.
doing the same thing every
Mm-hmm.
time. They want something different. You know, then it becomes a problem because now it's like, okay, I'm happy. Why aren't you happy with this
Mm-hmm.
situation?
Mm-hmm.
so,
Mm-hmm.
so then it becomes like, okay, now I got to do something to get it back to where it was. And I just think that possessiveness can be an ugly side of things in relationships. Things can get violent.
Mm-hmm.
There can be a lot of drama. So
Stunting the growth of people because now you're scared to sort of like do anything.
yeah, causing all types of panic and depression and you know paranoia. It's just unnecessary.
So as like we move forward in society, we've already talked about we had women's liberation, and we're moving beyond just the single family household, right? We got the husband got a house, the wife got a house. You know what I mean?
Right,
Um, do we also move in the direction of, listen, you're not really gonna get away with controlling people anymore, or holding them to like, this is how you are today, so this is how you have to continue to be in order for this to be successful. It's gonna morph into like more of this ambiguous thing, like Consi was talking about, where it's like whatever floats our boat at the moment. You know what I mean? Like
right,
I'm not so invested in you that I feel I'm gonna lose all of my savings just because I don't want to fuck with you no more or whatever. You know what I mean?
right,
I don't
right,
have that fear anymore, and neither do you. And so now we can just be cool with each other and be genuine. If we like each other, then we gonna fuck with each other, regardless of the marriage benefits and all that stuff. It's just gonna be a case of, you like me, I like you. Hey, you know what I mean?
right.
We don't have to get all knee deep in litigation about this, and we don't have to be worried about pleasing the damn family and all that stuff with the marriage and all that. Like the cover's been blown on that.
That's true. That's true.
And so the pushback is going to be from those that want to keep that facade, that lie. They want to keep the lie alive. I like my dysfunctional, marriage that purports to be more stable than it is, and monogamous and all that shit. Those are people going to be the ones that's mad when the rest
Yep.
of us is like, look, man, I'm going to my other wife house right now, and they talk to each other on the phone. It's all good. I don't got to lie. None of that. You know what I'm saying?
Right, right, right.
Because I set
See if
that
you don't have,
expectation in the beginning.
have any more questions.
Let's see.
So I don't see.
see, some people said Tony Morgan just checking in. What's up? So Tony. Um, let's see. Someone says marriage is just a title. I agree. I do agree.
That's what we finding more and more now.
Yeah,
There was a mystery
it's
behind
a
it, you know.
right. I think it's just for social status. Really, I
Mm-hmm.
think if you're willing to fully invest in that social status, you can definitely pull it off. But it's not
Mm-hmm.
going to be easy, and definitely not going to be affordable. but but yeah, it can be done. It's just it's not
Absolutely.
in today's society. It's not worth it. It's not necessary. It's too much. Too much
Mm-hmm.
extra into marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yep. I'll end off by saying I just did some viewing of a video and reading of a blog about the people we know about them, the Khoi and the San, aka the Khoi San people, right? These two people groups that have become one. South Africans, longest continual, history of any civilization. They haven't been bombed out. They haven't been genetically influenced to the point, where they're not homogenous no more. Longest, running civilization, basically. But they're foragers, they're hunters, right? They're old school with it. But the way that they live, they have the most happiness in terms of relationships. They can get married and everybody says, yay, great. That, no matter how long they knew each other or didn't before they got married or what family they come from. And then guess what? They want to get divorced. Okay, cool. You're divorced. Yay, great. There's no like stigma. You're a bad guy. You're a bad girl. There's none of that. It's
Right.
very,
Right.
it's very easy, very in and out, very, we're not trying to appeal to the outside. This is something me and you want to do. Let's say we have a family for 5 years. We want to call it off. Okay, great. And then we start another family with somebody else. I mean, whatever. But it's not a negative stigma, and I have to tear you down after
Facts.
after our relationship is over. Now you can't be good to nobody after this.
I mean,
They don't necessarily have that.
if you think about some of these divorces and the blowback a lot of these people go through, that's why they act that way. Because they have to give up a lot of stuff, or they have to financially give up things, and you know they didn't invest that into the relationship to begin with. So you know that's when it becomes an ugly situation.
Yep. And then there's those that live for that too. We can't forget about that category. The people that
Yeah,
that
yeah,
live for the drama and the
yeah.
you
They were
know
all smoke.
yeah, the luster of all of that messiness, right?
Yep.
Because at the end of the day, that's attention. The psychology behind attention
Oh
is
yeah,
people will like attention, whether it's negative or if it's positive.
positive. Come on,
You
yeah.
know, hey,
Yep.
hey. So you got to
Hey,
be
that
careful
that
out
even
there.
falls into the possessiveness because that's still attention that they're gaining from that person.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yep.
So
Yep.
yeah, at the end of the day, man, I try to be, I try to have a sense of humor about things, and not take
Mm,
our culture, which is this is not our culture anyway, to be
no.
taken so fucking seriously anyway, right? On top of that.
Correct.
But even if it was, I would not be trying to take it so serious, man, and overrate it to the point where I think I'm better than because I'm doing this whole Western marriage thing or whatever. No, it doesn't make you better or lesser for that matter either. I mean, you're just paying for an experience. When you go to the amusement park or to the fair, you pay for which ride you want to go on and shit. That's your business if you want to go on that ride and pay that fee to go on that ride. You know what I'm saying? But we all here at the amusement park, player, and I'm gonna have my fun even if I don't go on your ride.
Facts.
It's fun. It's fun over here too. So
Yep. You have a hell of fun without you.
we having hella fun without you, homie. Yep, and you can still be there for your family and all of that. Don't for the people out there that's considering changing their status or whatever it is with their relationships. Don't be ashamed because then you don't really want to do it anyway. If that's the case, you're really not ready to
Right.
do it. Don't be
Right.
ashamed about nothing. You can take care of your kids being in whatever situation, take care of yourself being in whatever situation, right? Help your mate, which ultimately we do. We can't do everything for them. That's not what this is for. We help them, they help us, right? But you don't have to be legally married to do that.
Nah, I've met
Not
couples.
nowadays. Not nowadays.
Nah. I've met couples who were in past relationships and past marriages, and they got together, and they both got kids, but they've been together for like over 5 years, like, and they have no plans on getting married. It's just
Right.
they're just rocking it out,
We're just living
and they're
married.
loyal as
We're
hell.
doing the important part about being married, which is living
Facts,
that testament. Not we got the title and then we're falling apart
facts,
on the inside. You know what I'm saying?
facts. A lot of people have missed that part. They just get the title, but they don't live it.
hmm For the older people out there, right? The elders, hey, you see where this is going, and the elders in their time, best believe they seen plenty of not legally married, love happening where positive things were happening, right? So they can look within themselves and forgive, right? A lot of us are religious, parents and stuff, and they might not want to forgive their children for having these are going to be considered extreme or rebellious views to some people, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the older people, you guys got to just take it easy. I mean, society is already enough pressure on these young adults. Then for you to put on top of that, oh, you need to get married how we used to get married, and meanwhile, houses don't cost $1,700 anymore.
Nah, hell no.
Cars don't cost $500 no more. You heard? Education don't cost 15,000 no more.
No, you're right.
So you can't expect us to do the same thing that you guys did.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way in hell we can do that. We our jobs are systematically set up to where we can afford to pay for the individual that's working that job. He can't fuck around and have no 7 kids.
No, sir.
Right. Right.
So it just don't work that way. And we just have to welcome whatever is coming because we can't tell society to mold to what we want it to be. We have to kind of go along with it, man, and keep loving each other while this world is changing and we're being thrust into these different things where we don't have mortgages anymore. We're just renting for our whole life or whatever,
Mm,
right? Which can work out advantageous because now you can travel, you can have a job in another country. You ain't got to be tied down to this house in this country, whatever. It's a different world,
yep.
but that don't mean you can't love in this different world.
Mm-hmm.
So we just gotta grow up. We gotta grow up. We can't just be holding these old ass fucking traditions on people over their head. Oh, you ain't doing this. You ain't buy your girl that car yet, boy. What you thinking? What you mean? What I'm thinking? That motherfucker cost 50,000. She don't want the $13,000 car. She want the 50. She want the $50,000 car.
Facts.
That's why I ain't bought the motherfucking car
she with
because I
the S
can't.
class. She with the S class. She selling for the Hyundai.
Right.
So yeah, we just can't be too hard on ourselves, man. That's what I would say. I mean, it's supposed to be a positive thing to have relationships and shit. It's supposed to be fancy free and sort of, uplifting and give you that sense of wonderment and excitement and all that shit. But we don't even have that no more, man, because it's so much worry and so much. I need you to do this for me, and you know what I mean. Like the places where I'm lacking, you need to shore that up for me, and where I don't have to even become proficient in that area.
Mm-hmm.
This is not those days no more. The wife got to know how to take out trash when I'm gone working for 6 months in another country or whatever. She got to know how to do
Ooh,
that.
man, you sitting there take out trash for
Mm,
what?
I
mm.
got to know. I got to know how to cook a meal. In case she has to go somewhere and do her thing and be away from the family because you have to do that to make money now. I
Yep.
have to know how to cook a meal. I can't be talking about some. Hey, Bitch, you ain't cooking my shit. You know, you're a bad wife. Get the fuck out of here.
Hey,
You better
hey,
learn. You
hey,
better learn how to cook something.
hey, think about this though. The the other person in your relationship would do more things for you if you don't ask or feel entitled to certain things.
Facts.
Mm-hmm.
I think once you start having these type of demands and requirements, you're never gonna see that person be spontaneous ever because they're feeling like, okay, this is something that I always have to do because this person feels entitled that, hey, I always gotta do this. They not gonna ever do it. Versus, just randomly being spontaneous.
Right. Hey, babe, I did this for you. Oh, that's dope. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Or not even tell them, just be like, look, done. And then she find out on her own.
Right. Right. Yep. Yep. Yep.
you know?
That's
Mm-hmm.
real. So yeah, the roles again, biology is still there. The man still wants to be physical, right, and beat up whatever threat is coming. But even though we don't really have those kind of threats like we used to back in the day,
Right.
the family is not sleeping outside where we got to be fucking standing up while they sleep the whole time guarding. But that's what our biology wants to do. So sometimes we will pace the house while everybody sleep. We want to make sure everybody go to sleep before we do because that's our manly biology kicking in or whatever. So it's like, okay, that's biology. It happens. But at the end of the day, you still have to know how to do what the other role traditionally does or is supposed to do or whatever. You got to know how to do everything a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Well, it looks like everybody kind of done here. Any closing remarks, guys? Because this is a pretty good show. Real informative.
I would
Right.
just close with what I was leaving off with now, which is try to keep a innocence and a love for your people and for your mate in particular, because it is hard. If you're thinking about it's hard on you individually, then your partner got the same fucking thing going on. It's hard for them. It's difficult. So you got to give people a chance, and not be holding them to such a higher standard than what you are even doing.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I think people just gotta be realistic, man. Yeah. Kill that fairy tale BS, kill the fantasy, and just be realistic.
Yep.
You'll be happier
Facts.
that way, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt.
Go talk to your grandparents about it. They'll tell you.
And that's key. Using
Uh-huh.
family resources is key. Being social and integrating family is highly important. Something we overlook a lot of times because it's again it's kind of a push against tradition. Social media is reshaping lifestyles, and the internet has made the world extremely small. So it's kind of hard to impress. It's kind of hard to indulge when you have the world at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think, like you guys have been saying, the smaller things make the relationship that much more valuable. It's the small things and
Yep.
the uh, reasoning and rationale that create healthy relationships.
Say that again.
So, but it was great, great convo. Um, those of you in the chat, you had really great questions,
Yep.
great interaction, and we'll be sure to touch on some more social things. I think one of the biggest things that's going on now is a lot of the way politics are being played out in front of us. We probably got to address that. But
Mm-hmm.
you guys stay tuned. That's what it is. Brother Melvin, Brother Triz. Appreciate Joshua. Appreciate you for the 3 minutes you had, Malik. I hope you're okay. Hope you don't get your ass whooped. Team O.S.I.R.I.S is always on the horizon, man. Shout out to Ngozi. Shout out to the Team O.S.I.R.I.S family. Hero. Tasike. Mi hermano. Gichigala. I forgot your name. I'm getting old as hell. That's why. No, shout out to Kufu and
Terrence.
everybody in Team O.S.I.R.I.S.
Yep.
That's what it is, y'all.
Peace.
Peace.